the Alpha King had rejected 7 fated mates without flinching until the cursed maid who scrubbed his floors met his gaze, and his dying wolf recognized the one soul that could destroy them both. Before we begin this tale of hidden wolves, ancient curses, and a love the goddess herself designed, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, drop a like if you're into fantasy romance with serious plot twists, and comment below telling me where in the world you're watching from. Are you team reveal yourself immediately or team keep the secret? Let me know, because Ophelia's about to make a choice that changes everything. Now, let's go back to the night it all began. The entire lunar court had gathered beneath the blood-orange moon to witness the Alpha King's final chance at salvation. Hundreds of nobles crowded the moonlit courtyard, their silk gowns and formal furs rustling as they jostled for position. Commoners pressed against the palace gates, craning their necks to see the ceremony that would determine whether their kingdom survived the year. The air hummed with divine tension, thick as funeral incense, and underneath it all whispers. 7 rejections, a noblewoman murmured behind her jeweled fan, her voice dripping with scandal. The goddess herself chose them, and he turned them all away. Her companion leaned closer, pearls clicking against her throat. They say his wolf is dying. That each rejection steals more of his strength. Arrogant fool, someone else hissed. He'll doom us all searching for perfection that doesn't exist. On the raised dais at the courtyard center stood Alpha King Caius, motionless as carved stone. He cut a devastating figure in ceremonial black and silver, broad-shouldered and predatory, dark hair falling to his collar in waves that caught the moonlight. His face betrayed nothing, no nervousness, no hope, not even a flicker of the agony his wolf clawed through his chest with every breath. The indifference was deliberate. It had to be. Because if the court saw the truth, if they knew how close he stood to the edge of death, the kingdom would fracture before dawn. 7 women knelt before him in a crescent formation, each one a masterpiece of breeding and beauty. Lady Iris in emerald silk, her red hair cascading like fire. Luna with her porcelain skin and knowing smile. Darian, fierce and golden. Juliana, dark and elegant as midnight. Kieran, whose laugh could charm wolves from their dens. Soren with her warrior's grace. And Joss, sweet and trembling with hope. The moon priestess stood between them and the king, ancient and terrible in her silver robes, her milky eyes seeing far more than the physical world. The goddess has spoken, she intoned, her voice carrying across the breathless crowd. 7 souls marked by fate. 7 chances for the cursed bloodline to find redemption. Choose, Alpha King, before the moon sets or face her judgment. The crowd pressed forward, shameless in their morbid curiosity. Would he reject them again? Would the curse finally claim him? Would their king collapse before their eyes? Caius descended the dais with predatory grace, each footfall echoing against the ancient stones. His wolf snarled in his chest, already recoiling from what it sensed. He approached Lady Iris first. She lifted her face, hope shining in her emerald eyes. He extended his hand. She placed hers in his palm. Nothing. No spark. No pull. Just the hollow ache of wrongness, like a song played in the wrong key. His wolf whimpered, retreating deeper into his soul. Forgive me, Caius said quietly, releasing her hand. Iris's face crumbled. The crowd gasped. He moved to Luna. Then Darian. Then Juliana. One by one, he took their hands. One by one, his expression grew darker, his movements more rigid. His wolf screamed in protest, the curse tightening like a noose around both their souls. By the time he reached Joss, the 7th and final woman, his hand trembled. She was the youngest, barely 20, her eyes bright with desperate faith. Please, she whispered as he took her hand. Please let it be me. The silence in the courtyard was suffocating. Caius's jaw clenched. His wolf went utterly still, not in recognition, but in resignation. The bond everyone expected, the divine connection the goddess had promised, simply wasn't there. I'm sorry, he said, and released her hand. Jaws collapsed, sobbing. The priestess's face darkened with divine fury. You reject the goddess's choice once more? Her voice cracked like thunder. You condemn your kingdom with your pride, Alpha King. It's not pride, Caius said through gritted teeth, his control fracturing. None of them. Pain exploded through his chest. He staggered, one hand clutching his ribs as his wolf convulsed inside him. The seventh rejection was breaking something fundamental, tearing at the thread that bound his human soul to his beast. He heard screaming and realized distantly it might be coming from him and felt his knees buckle. The crowd erupted in chaos. Nobles shouted. The priestess called for healers. The 7 rejected women scrambled backward, faces pale with horror. And through it all, one figure moved. A maid in rough gray wool broke through the line of servants at the courtyard's edge. She shouldn't have been there, commoners weren't allowed beyond the pillars. But she ran anyway, her scarred hands clutching her servant's tray as she dropped to her knees beside the fallen king. Your Majesty. The voice cut through his agony like a silver blade. Ophelia, the quiet maid who cleaned his halls, who kept her eyes down and her voice soft, who everyone overlooked because she was plain and damaged and beneath notice. She reached for him without thinking, her rough palm pressing against his chest where his heart hammered like a war drum. The effect was instant. Caius's wolf, which had been thrashing in its death throes, went utterly still. Then it purred. A sound it hadn't made in 5 years. The pain in his chest evaporated like morning frost under the sun. His heartbeat steadied, strong and sure, sinking with the rhythm of her palm against his sternum. He opened his eyes. She knelt above him, moonlight streaming through her mousy brown hair, her face half hidden in shadow. But her eyes are God's, her eyes one moment brown, the next flickering with something silver and ancient. His wolf surged forward with desperate recognition, pressing against his ribs as if it could claw through flesh to reach her. Mine. The word echoed through his mind with primal certainty. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have, Ophelia stammered, suddenly realizing what she'd done. She jerked her hand back as if burned. Forgive me, Your Majesty, I didn't mean to. Wait, Caius tried to reach for her, but she was already scrambling backward. Seize her, someone shouted. Guards moved forward. But Ophelia was faster. She spun and fled into the crowd, gray skirts flying, disappearing between the pillars like smoke. Caius tried to rise, to call after her, but his legs wouldn't cooperate. His body was still recovering from the near death of his wolf. The priestess loomed over him, her expression unreadable. Did you feel that, Alpha King? Who is she? Caius demanded, his voice raw. That maid found her. Now. The goddess works in mysterious ways, the priestess said cryptically, then turned to the stunned crowd. The ceremony is concluded. The Alpha King has made his choice. I didn't choose anyone. Caius snarled. But the priestess only smiled, cold and knowing. Oh, I think you did. You just don't know it yet. The crowd dispersed in confused whispers. The 7 rejected women were escorted away in tears. Servants rushed to help Caius to his feet. But he couldn't stop staring at the place where the maid had vanished, couldn't stop hearing his wolf's voice echoing in his mind with desperate certainty. Mate. Go back. Find her. For the first time in 5 years, his wolf wasn't silent. For the first time since the curse began, Caius felt something other than emptiness. And in the shadows beyond the pillars, hidden among the forgotten servants and overlooked corners of the palace, Ophelia pressed her back against the cold stone and tried to stop shaking. Her palm still tingled where she'd touched him. The silver veins beneath her skin pulsed with light she couldn't suppress. He can't know, she told herself desperately. He can never know what I am. But even as she thought it, she felt the bond fragile and new and terrifying beginning to weave itself between them. The goddess's curse was unraveling. The 7th rejection had triggered something ancient and irreversible. The Alpha King had finally recognized his mate. He just didn't know she'd been standing in his shadow all along. What Caius didn't know, what no one in that courtyard understood, was that his curse had been designed with cruel precision. Generations ago, his ancestor had demanded beauty over bond, choosing pride over the goddess's wisdom. In punishment, she'd cursed his bloodline. The true mate would be hidden from recognition, cloaked beneath illusion and obscurity, visible only to a soul willing to see beyond the surface. Every rejection weakened the alpha's wolf. Every beautiful face he turned away from tightened the noose around his fate. And the seventh rejection? That was meant to be the end. The final test. The moment when the king would have to choose, die in proud blindness, or recognize the mate who'd been invisible all along. Caius woke to silver light bleeding through his eyelids and the taste of moonlight on his tongue. For a disorienting moment, he didn't know where he was. Then the familiar weight of silk sheets registered, the scent of cedarwood and old stone, the distant echo of the palace settling into pre-dawn silence. His chamber. He was in his chamber. Safe. Except he didn't feel safe. His wolf prowled restlessly beneath his skin, pacing like a caged thing that had finally caught the scent of freedom. Mate, it whispered, the word a prayer and a curse all at once. Find her. Go back. She's close. Caius pressed the heels of his palms against his eyes, trying to block out the dream that clung to him like spiderweb. A girl with eyes that shifted between brown and silver, hands glowing with moonfire, a voice that resonated in his bones. You weren't meant to see me. You were meant to recognize me. But it hadn't been just a dream. It had been her. The maid. Ophelia. The moon goddess's voice had threaded through it all, amused and ancient. You've already met her, foolish king. You've been looking at her for years. He sat up, his body protesting the movement. Every muscle ached as if he'd fought a battle, though the only war had been the one raging inside him. The seventh rejection had nearly killed him. He remembered the pain white-hot and absolute, his wolf convulsing as the curse tightened its grip. He remembered falling, the courtyard spinning, nobles screaming. And then her touch. Caius looked down at his chest where her palm had pressed, half expecting to see a mark burned into his skin. Nothing. Just the faint silver scars that had appeared after each rejection, spiderwebbing across his heart like cracks in glass. 7 scars now. 7 failures. Or 7 tests, his wolf murmured. 7 paths to the one who matters. Shut up, Caius growled aloud, swinging his legs over the side of the bed. His bare feet hit cold marble. Good. He needed the shock of it, needed something real and solid to anchor him. Because the alternative was madness. The alternative was believing that the moon goddess who had cursed his bloodline and tormented him for 5 years had placed his true mate right under his nose. A servant. A scarred, overlooked maid who cleaned his floors and kept her eyes down and radiated a strange, impossible calm that made his wolf purr. It was too cruel, even for a goddess with a grudge. Wasn't it? The curse had begun 3 generations ago, though Caius hadn't known the full story until his father lay dying, the same silver scars consuming his chest. Listen well, his father had rasped, fingers digging into Caius's arm with desperate strength. Your great-grandfather, Aldrich the Vain, was offered a mate by the goddess, a woman of pure heart and quiet strength. But Aldrich took one look at her plain face and rejected her. He demanded beauty. He demanded perfection. He told the moon goddess herself that no king should be saddled with an ugly bride. Caius, barely 20 and newly crowned, had felt ice slide down his spine. The goddess granted his wish, his father continued, voice breaking. She gave him a beautiful mate. Stunning. Perfect. And utterly wrong. His wolf rejected her on instinct, but Aldrich forced the bond anyway, choosing pride over truth. The union produced an heir, but it poisoned the bloodline. The goddess cursed us then, you demanded beauty over bond. Now your line shall be blind to the heart. Your true mate will be veiled from recognition, hidden beneath the surface you prize so much. Only a soul willing to see beyond the mask will survive. 7 chances. 7 rejections. And then death. His father had died 3 days later, the curse finally claiming him after his 7th failed bond. And Caius had inherited more than a kingdom. He'd inherited a death sentence. The curse was elegant in its cruelty. His true mate's scent would be masked, her presence dampened, her beauty if she had any concealed beneath illusion or circumstance. His wolf could only recognize her if he looked with something other than his eyes. With his soul. With the part of him that saw truth instead of surface. But how was he supposed to do that when every woman presented to him radiated power, beauty, and confidence? When the goddess herself chose them and declared them fated? Each rejection had weakened him. He felt it in the way his wolf grew quieter, more distant. In the way his strength waned, his commands carried less weight. The nobles had started to whisper about rebellion. The neighboring packs sensed vulnerability. And the 7th rejection had nearly destroyed him completely. Except it hadn't. Because she had touched him, and everything had changed. Caius moved to the window, pulling back the heavy curtain. Dawn crept over the mountain peaks, painting the sky in shades of violet and gold. The palace sprawled below, a labyrinth of stone and shadow where hundreds of souls lived and worked. One of them was Ophelia. One of them was the answer he'd been dying to find. "I need you to find someone," Caius said 3 hours later, standing in the tower chamber of Esme, the palace seer. The old woman looked up from her scrying bowl, milky eyes narrowing. The maid. It wasn't a question. Every record of her, Caius continued, ignoring the knowing look on her face. Origin, family, how she came to the palace. "I want everything." Esme was silent for a long moment, her gnarled fingers trailing through the water in her bowl. Silver ripples spread across the surface, forming patterns that shifted too quickly to read. "There is nothing," she said finally. "What do you mean, nothing?" "I mean the girl does not exist. Not in any record, any registry, any documentation. It's as if she appeared in the palace fully formed, with no past, no history." Esme's voice dropped. "Or as if someone very powerful wanted her forgotten." Caius's hands clenched into fists. "That's impossible." "Is it?" Esme lifted her gaze, and for a moment, her blind eyes seemed to see straight through him. "You are close to the truth, Alpha King. But be warned, the truth will unmake you. Some veils exist for a reason." "I don't care about reasons," Caius snarled, his wolf rising to the surface. "I need to know who she is." "Why?" Esme's question was deceptively simple. "Because your wolf recognized her? Because she soothed your pain? Or because you're terrified that the goddess has been testing you all along, and you've been failing to see what was right in front of you?" The words hit like physical blows. Caius turned away, jaw tight. "Find her. I don't care how. Use magic, use spies, use whatever you need. But I want answers by nightfall." "Some answers," Esme said quietly as he reached the door, "can only be found by asking the right questions. And some questions, Your Majesty, you're not yet ready to ask." In the servant quarters beneath the palace's east wing, Ophelia sat on her narrow cot with her knees pulled to her chest, trying very hard not to fall apart. Her hands still tingled where she'd touched him. The silver veins beneath her skin pulsed with light she couldn't suppress, glowing faintly through her rough wool sleeves. She'd wrapped them in bandages, told the other servants she'd burned herself in the kitchen. No one questioned it. No one ever questioned her. That was the blessing and curse of being invisible. "You touched him." Mother Alara stood in the doorway, her ancient face carved with disapproval. The guardian which had protected Ophelia since childhood, hiding her in plain sight, teaching her to suppress her power. "After everything I taught you. After all the warnings." "He was dying," Ophelia whispered. "His wolf, I could feel it breaking. I couldn't just." "You could and you should have." Alara crossed the small room in 3 strides, grasping Ophelia's glowing hands. Do you have any idea what you've done? The bond has begun. The recognition has started. There's no going back now. Tears burned Ophelia's eyes. I never wanted this. I never asked to be. The eclipse child, Alara finished grimly. The goddess's hidden heir. The one soul capable of breaking the curse or fulfilling it completely. She released Ophelia's hands, her expression softening slightly. You cannot reveal what you are. The Luna Council would execute you. The nobles would use you. And the Alpha King. She paused. He would have to choose between his throne and his mate. That choice would destroy him. Then what do I do? Ophelia's voice cracked. He's looking for me. I saw it in his eyes before I ran. He knows something happened. You hide, Alara said firmly. You keep your head down, maintain your disguise, and pray to the goddess he forgets. The seventh rejection was the final seal. If he rejects you now, if he discovers the truth and chooses duty over bond, both your wolves will die. The curse will be complete. Ophelia closed her eyes, feeling the weight of destiny pressing down like a physical thing. And if he doesn't forget? Then the goddess's test begins in earnest, Alara said quietly. And we'll all discover whether an Alpha King can finally learn to see with his heart instead of his eyes. Night fell over the palace like a burial shroud. Caius stood on his balcony, the same balcony where his father had stood when the curse began claiming him, where his grandfather had paced like a caged wolf, where Aldrich the Vain had first spat in the face of the goddess's mercy. The moon rose full and silver, casting everything in pale light. And deep in his chest, beneath the 7 scars that marked his failures, Caius's wolf stirred. She's still here, it whispered with absolute certainty. She's close. She's afraid. And she's ours. Caius's fingers tightened on the balcony rail, stone cracking beneath his grip. Then I'll find you, he promised the night, the moon, the maid hiding somewhere in the shadows below. Whatever you're hiding, whoever you really are, I'll find you. Even if it kills us both. The moon seemed to pulse once, as if in answer. And in the servant quarters far below, Ophelia felt the pull of a bond she could no longer deny, wrapping around her heart like silver thread. The goddess's game had begun. Ophelia had perfected the art of being invisible. She moved through the palace like smoke, silent, unobtrusive, leaving no trace of her presence beyond completed tasks. Floors scrubbed clean. Fireplaces swept. Silver polished to a mirror shine. She kept her scarred hands tucked in her sleeves, her mousy hair hidden beneath her servant's cap, her eyes fixed on the ground. The other servants barely remembered her name. The nobles looked straight through her. And for 18 years, that had kept her alive. But now, as she carried a basket of soiled linens through the east corridor, Ophelia felt the weight of a gaze she couldn't escape. She didn't need to look up to know who watched her from the shadows of the upper gallery. Her skin prickled with awareness, her pulse hammering a rhythm that matched the pull in her chest, the bond she couldn't sever, couldn't deny, couldn't afford to acknowledge. He's hunting you, her wolf whispered, the voice barely audible beneath the binding curse Mother Alara had placed on her years ago. He'll find us. He'll know. Ophelia kept walking, kept her breathing steady, and prayed to the goddess for mercy she knew wouldn't come. The Alpha's wolves lived in the palace kennels, a sprawling stone structure attached to the eastern tower. Most servants avoided them, the beasts were massive, temperamental, and loyal only to their king. But Ophelia had been assigned to their care 3 years ago, and she'd learned their language of growls and body movements, the way they responded to calm energy rather than fear. She entered the kennel with her usual bucket of raw meat, the heavy door groaning shut behind her. 6 pairs of golden eyes fixed on her immediately. The pack alpha, a silver-furred giant named Ash, rose from his position by the window. Ophelia set down the bucket and knelt, offering her hand palm up. Easy, boy. Just me. Ash approached slowly, his massive head lowering to sniff her fingers. Then, as he always did, he whined a sound too vulnerable for such a dangerous creature and pressed his muzzle into her palm. The other wolves followed, surrounding her in a circle of fur and warm breath. They could sense what she was, even if they didn't understand it. The Eclipse Child. The goddess's hidden heir. A wolf cloaked in human skin. "You're all I have," Ophelia whispered, running her fingers through Ash's thick coat. "The only ones who see me." The kennel door opened. Every wolf's head snapped toward the entrance, ears forward, bodies tense. But none of them growled. Instead, they lowered their heads in submission, a gesture they offered to only one person. Ophelia's breath caught as Alpha King Caius stepped inside. He wore simple black today, no formal regalia, his dark hair tied back with a leather cord. But there was nothing simple about the way he commanded space, the predatory grace in his movements, the intensity in his storm-gray eyes as they found her kneeling among his wolves. "You have a way with them," he said, his voice low and considering. "They don't let anyone else touch them." Ophelia kept her head down, heart hammering. "They know I mean no harm, Your Majesty." "Is that it?" He moved closer, and the wolves parted for him like water. "Or is it something else?" She didn't answer. Couldn't answer. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but running would only confirm his suspicions. Caius crouched beside her, close enough that she could smell cedarwood and night air, close enough that the bond between them pulled taut as a bowstring. Ash whined again, looking between them with an expression almost like understanding. "What's your name?" Caius asked. "Ophelia, Your Majesty." "How long have you worked in the palace, Ophelia?" 3 years, Your Majesty." "And before that?" Her hands clenched in Ash's fur. "I was orphaned, Your Majesty. The palace took me in." It wasn't entirely a lie. Mother Alara had brought her here after the village burned, after the hunters came searching for the child born under the forbidden eclipse. The palace had been the perfect hiding place with so many servants, so much chaos, no one noticed one more broken girl seeking shelter. Caius was silent for a long moment. "Then, you saved my life 3 nights ago." I did nothing, Your Majesty. You touched me, and my wolf stopped dying." His voice dropped to something raw, almost desperate. "I need to understand why." Ophelia finally looked up, meeting his gaze for a fraction of a second before jerking her eyes away. But it was enough. She saw the haunted look in his expression, the exhaustion carved into his features, the way his hands trembled slightly before he clenched them into fists. He was falling apart, piece by piece, and her touch had been the first relief he'd felt in years. "Tell him," her wolf begged. "He's our mate. He deserves the truth." But Mother Alara's warning echoed louder, "The truth will destroy you both." "I don't know why, Your Majesty," Ophelia whispered. "Perhaps the goddess." "Don't." The word was sharp as a blade. "Don't tell me it was the goddess. I'm done with her games." He stood abruptly, and Ophelia felt the loss of his proximity like a physical ache. Caius stared down at her, his expression unreadable, then turned toward the door. But before he left, he paused. "You hum while you work. I've heard you in the halls." Ophelia's blood turned to ice. "It's an old tune," he continued, not looking back. "My mother used to sing it. She learned it from the moon priestesses when she was young." His shoulders tensed. How does a servant girl know a song that only the goddess's chosen should remember? The door closed behind him before Ophelia could form an answer. Ash pressed closer, sensing her distress, but no amount of comfort could stop the memories from flooding back. She was 7 years old when the hunters came. Mother Alara had hidden her in the cellar, one gnarled hand pressed over Ophelia's mouth to stifle her sobs as boots thundered overhead. Through the cracks in the floorboards, she'd watched her village burn, orange flames consuming thatch roofs, smoke billowing into the night sky. "Where is the Eclipse Child?" a voice demanded, cold and cruel. "The prophecy says she was born here." "Find her," or everyone dies. Ophelia hadn't understood what they meant. Hadn't known she was different, special, dangerous. She'd only known the village elders had always watched her with wary eyes, that her mother had died bringing her into the world under a moon that should never have existed, half shadow, half light, the goddess's forbidden sign. The child is dead, someone had lied above them. Died with her mother in childbirth. The hunters hadn't believed them. They'd burned the village anyway, searching for proof. Searching for her. Mother Alara had smuggled her out at dawn, the old witch's face grim. You must never let them know what you are, child. Never let your power show. The eclipse child is prophesied to either save the cursed bloodline or destroy it completely. There are those who would kill you to prevent either fate. And so Ophelia had learned to hide. To be small. To be nothing. Until 3 nights ago, when her careful invisibility had shattered the moment she touched the dying king. 2 days passed before Caius summoned her again. The king requires wine during council, the head housekeeper announced, her pinched face radiating disapproval as she thrust a silver tray into Ophelia's hands. You're to serve him. Don't speak unless spoken to. Don't look at him directly. And for goddess's sake, don't drop anything. Ophelia's hands trembled as she climbed the stairs to the council chamber. This was a test. She knew it with the same certainty she knew the sun would rise. Caius was circling her, trying to understand what she was, why his wolf recognized her. She couldn't afford to fail. The council chamber doors opened, revealing a long table surrounded by nobles and advisors. At its head sat Caius, tension radiating from his frame as Lord Kieran droned on about border disputes. His eyes found her immediately. Ophelia kept her gaze down, approaching with careful steps. She poured wine into his goblet with steady hands, a small miracle given how her pulse raced. As she moved to step back, Caius's hand shot out, his fingers brushing hers on the stem of the decanter. The contact lasted less than a second. But in that heartbeat, the air between them ignited. Energy crackled across Ophelia's skin, silver light pulsing beneath her bandaged hands. Caius's wolf howled inside him, she felt it like an echo in her own chest. The bond pulled tight, demanding recognition, demanding surrender. Around the table, the candle flames flickered wildly. Frost spread across the windows in impossible patterns. Ophelia jerked back, the decanter nearly slipping from her grasp. She caught it at the last moment, but wine sloshed over the rim, drops of red staining the white tablecloth like blood. Clumsy girl, Lord Kieran muttered. But Caius said nothing. He stared at her with an expression caught between wonder and horror, his hand still outstretched, trembling faintly. Leave us, he said suddenly, his voice rough. The council members looked up in confusion. Your Majesty, we haven't finished. Now. The command in his tone brooked no argument. Nobles scrambled to their feet, gathering their papers, shooting curious glances between their king and the serving maid. Within moments, the chamber emptied, the heavy doors closing with an ominous thud. Ophelia stood frozen, the tray clutched in white-knuckled hands. Caius rose slowly, moving around the table with predatory focus. Don't run. Your Majesty, I said don't run. He was close now, too close, and Ophelia could see the silver threading through his gray eyes, his wolf rising to the surface. Come with me. It wasn't a request. He led her through a side door into his private chamber, a sprawling room dominated by a massive four-poster bed and windows that overlooked the mountains. An ornate mirror hung on the far wall, its gilded frame carved with wolves and moons. Stand there, Caius instructed, pointing to a spot before the mirror. In the light. Ophelia's heart hammered against her ribs, but she obeyed. Moonlight streamed through the windows, catching her in its pale glow. She kept her eyes down, terrified of what might happen, what he might see. Look up, Caius commanded softly. Look at the mirror. She did. And froze. Her reflection stared back, but it wasn't the plain, scarred servant girl she saw every day. In the mirror, silver veins glowed beneath her skin like rivers of moonlight. Her eyes flickered between brown and silver, pulsing with ancient power. Her hair seemed to move with invisible wind, and around her head, a faint corona of light pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. The eclipse child. The goddess's heir. Everything she'd hidden for 18 years, revealed in glass and moonlight. No, Ophelia gasped, stumbling backward. No, please. But Caius had seen it too. His face had gone pale, his wolf surging so close to the surface that his eyes blazed pure silver. You, he breathed. All this time. You. Ophelia ran. She dropped the tray, silver clattering against stone, and fled through the chamber door. Behind her, she heard a sound like breaking glass, violent and final. She didn't stop running until she'd reached the servant quarters, didn't stop until she'd collapsed on her cot with Mother Alara's warding charms clutched in her shaking hands. In his chamber, Caius stood among the shattered remains of the mirror, his fist bleeding, his chest heaving with ragged breaths. The image was burned into his mind, the maid transformed into something divine, something impossible, something that matched the dreams that had haunted him since the 7th rejection. His wolf howled with recognition, with need, with certainty. Mate. Ours. Find her. Claim her. Caius looked at his bleeding knuckles, at the silver drops of his blood mixing with shattered glass, and whispered the question that would change everything. Who are you, Maid? The moon offered no answer. But deep in his bones, Caius already knew. He just didn't want to believe it yet. Esme found Caius in the ruined chamber at dawn, still standing among the shattered glass. You saw her, the seer said quietly, her blind eyes somehow seeing more than he ever could. The mirror showed you the truth. Caius didn't turn from the window. His hand had healed already accelerated shifter metabolism, but the memory of breaking glass lingered. Of silver light. Of a face that was both the servant he'd overlooked and something far more ancient. Tell me what she is. You already know. Tell me anyway. His voice was raw, dangerous. His wolf prowled beneath his skin, demanding he hunt, find, claim. But something deeper held him back, a whisper of fear that once he knew the truth, there would be no going back. Esme's staff tapped against the floor as she approached. I warned you. The truth will unmake you, Alpha King. Are you certain you want it spoken aloud? I'm dying, Caius said flatly. My wolf grows weaker every day. The 7th rejection should have killed me, but he stopped, jaw clenching. Every time she touches me, I feel whole again. So either tell me what she is, or watch your king crumble to dust. The seer was silent for a long moment, her gnarled fingers tracing patterns in the air. The eclipse child, she finally whispered. Born under a moon that should not exist, half light, half shadow, the goddess's rarest sign. The prophecy speaks of one who can either break the curse on your bloodline, or fulfill it completely. Salvation or damnation. There is no middle ground. Caius's hands clenched into fists. Where has she been? Why is she here, disguised as a servant? Because there are those who would kill her to prevent either fate. The Luna Council knows the prophecy. They've been searching for the eclipse child for decades. Esme's voice dropped to barely a whisper. If they discover she's here, in your palace, they will demand her execution. They will claim she's bewitched you. And they will tear this kingdom apart to destroy her. Let them try. The wolf in his voice made the words a snarl. She's mine. Is she? Esme tilted her head, blind eyes seeming to pierce through him. Or are you hers? The goddess's game isn't finished, Your Majesty. You stand at a crossroads. Choose wrong, and you'll lose everything. Choose right. She smiled, sad and knowing. And you'll lose everything anyway. Just in a different way. Before Caius could respond, the chamber doors burst open. High Priestess Moira swept in, flanked by 3 members of the Luna Council. Their faces were carved from stone, eyes hard with judgment. Alpha King Caius, Moira intoned, her voice echoing with divine authority. We must speak. Immediately. The council convened in the throne room within the hour. Caius sat on his throne, projecting a calm he didn't feel while 6 council members arrayed themselves before him like judges. High Priestess Moira stood at their center, her silver robes catching the morning light, her expression severe. We have received troubling reports, she began without preamble. You have been seen, consorting with a servant girl. Pursuing her. Summoning her to private chambers. I wasn't aware I needed permission to speak with my own staff, Caius said coldly. You need permission, Lord Kieran interjected, when your obsession with a common maid threatens to destabilize the entire kingdom. The nobles are talking, Your Majesty. They say you've gone mad. That you rejected 7 goddess-chosen women for a scarred nobody. Watch your tongue, Caius growled, his wolf rising to the surface. Several council members stepped back instinctively. Moira raised one hand. Peace, Alpha King. We come not as enemies, but as protectors of the goddess's will. Her eyes bored into him. You have been cursed. We understand this. But pursuing this girl, whoever she is not the answer. The goddess will view it as another rejection of her chosen mates. She will punish you. Punish all of us. The goddess, Caius said through gritted teeth, cursed my bloodline 3 generations ago because my ancestor was a fool who valued beauty over bond. Every woman you presented to me was wrong. My wolf rejected them because none of them were my true mate. And you believe a servant is? Moira's voice dripped with skepticism. A girl with no lineage, no power, no. Enough. Caius rose from his throne, power radiating from him despite his weakness. I am your king. Who I choose to speak with, to summon, to. Pain exploded through his chest. The same white-hot agony from the ceremony, the curse tightening like a fist around his heart. Caius staggered, one hand clutching the throne's armrest. His wolf howled in his mind, thrashing against invisible chains. Your Majesty! Someone rushed forward, Lord Soren, perhaps, but Caius couldn't focus. Couldn't breathe. The silver scars on his chest blazed with heat, spreading like cracks in ice. The 7th rejection was still killing him. Slowly. Inevitably. Fetch the healers, Moira commanded, though her voice sounded distant. Quickly. But Caius knew healers couldn't help. Nothing could help except. The throne room doors opened. Through the haze of pain, Caius saw her. Ophelia, clutching a basket of linens, her eyes wide with horror as she took in the scene. She shouldn't have been there. Should have been hiding in the servant quarters, avoiding him. But their bond pulled her forward anyway. No, Moira hissed. That girl keeps her away from him. But Ophelia was already moving, dropping the basket and running across the marble floor. Guards tried to intercept her, but she ducked beneath their grasping hands with surprising grace. She fell to her knees beside Caius, her scarred hands reaching for his chest. Don't, he managed to gasp. They'll see. Her palms pressed against his heart. Light exploded from the contact. Not subtle this time. Not hidden. Pure silver radiance poured from Ophelia's hands, streaming through Caius's chest like liquid moonlight. The curse recoiled, the invisible chains around his wolf shattering. His heartbeat steadied, strong and sure, syncing with hers in perfect rhythm. But the light kept growing, brighter and brighter until the entire throne room blazed with it. The council members cried out, shielding their eyes. Moira stumbled backward, her face slack with shock. And in the light, Ophelia's true form began to show. The glamour Mother Alara had woven around her for 18 years flickered and died. Her scars faded. Her plain features refined into ethereal beauty. Her eyes blazed with silver and gold, the mark of the goddess's chosen. The eclipse child, revealed at last. Ophelia realized what was happening a moment too late. She jerked her hands back, the light dying as quickly as it had come, but the damage was done. Every person in that throne room had seen the truth. "No," she whispered, scrambling to her feet. "No, I didn't mean." "Seize her," Moira commanded, her voice shaking with a mixture of fear and fury. "That girl is an abomination. A witch. She's been hiding her power, deceiving us all." "Touch her and die," Caius snarled, rising to his full height. His wolf surged forward, protective and possessive. He moved to stand between Ophelia and the council, a living shield. "Your Majesty," Moira said carefully, "you are bewitched. That girl carries forbidden power. She is the Eclipse Child the prophecy warned of, the one who will bring hither salvation or destruction. She must be contained, studied, possibly. She's my mate." The words tore from Caius with absolute conviction. "The one my wolf has been searching for. The one the goddess intended all along." Shocked silence filled the throne room. Then chaos erupted. Council members shouting. Moira invoking the goddess's wrath. Guards uncertain who to obey. Through it all, Caius kept himself planted between Ophelia and everyone who would harm her, his wolf ready to tear apart anyone who tried. But Ophelia didn't stay to watch him fight for her. She ran. Mother Alara was brewing tea when Ophelia burst into her small cottage at the edge of the palace grounds, tears streaming down her face. "They know," Ophelia sobbed, collapsing into the old witch's arms. "Everyone saw. The light I couldn't control. Caius was dying and I just—" "Hush, child." Alara held her, stroking her hair with gentle hands. "I know. I felt the moment the binding broke. The glamour I wove around you shattered when you used your full power to heal him. What do I do? The Luna Council wants me dead. They'll hunt me. They'll do exactly what I've feared for 18 years, Alara said grimly. She pulled back, grasping Ophelia's shoulders. "Listen to me carefully. You are the Eclipse Child, born under a forbidden moon that fuses light and shadow. Your mother was the last lunar priestess before the goddess withdrew her favor. She died bringing you into this world, but not before she bound your wolf, sealed it beneath illusion to protect you from those who would use your power." Ophelia had known some of this, but hearing it spoken aloud made it real. Terrifying. "Use me how?" "Your bloodline can channel the goddess's will directly. In the wrong hands, that power could force the divine to bend. Control the moon cycles. Manipulate fate bonds. The Luna Council has searched for you because they fear you but also because they covet what you represent." Alara's grip tightened. "The Alpha King's curse was designed to find you. His ancestors' sin created a bloodline that can only recognize truth when it's hidden. You were always meant to be his mate. The goddess has been guiding you toward each other since the day you were born. Then why did she make it so hard?" Ophelia's voice broke. "Why hide me? Why curse him? Why make us both suffer? Because true bonds aren't given, they're forged." Alara's eyes softened with something like pity. "The goddess tests what she treasures most. Your mother understood this. She bound your wolf knowing that only when you chose to reveal yourself to risk everything for love would the curse break completely. The seventh rejection was the final seal," Alara finished. "The Alpha King rejected 7 goddess-chosen women, each one a test of his ability to see beyond surface beauty. Each rejection weakened his wolf but strengthened his sight. And now—" She paused, her expression grave. "Now he stands at the edge of recognition. He knows what you are. He's claimed you before his council. But he hasn't chosen you, not truly. Not in the way the curse demands." Ophelia's blood ran cold. "What do you mean?" "The curse requires absolute acceptance. Mind, body, heart, and soul. No hesitation. No doubt. Not choosing you simply because his wolf recognizes the bond. Alara's voice dropped to a whisper. If the Alpha King rejects you once more, if he chooses duty over love, throne over heart, fear over faith, his wolf will die. And yours, still bound to him through the incomplete bond, will die with it. Both of you will be lost. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. How do I stop it? Ophelia whispered. You can't. Alara's smile was sad and ancient. This is the goddess's final test. Not of you, of him. Can an Alpha King cursed by pride finally learn to choose love over everything else? Can he accept a mate who threatens his throne, his council, his very kingdom? She cupped Ophelia's tear-stained face. The choice has always been his, child. You've already made yours. You revealed yourself to save him. Now we wait to see if he's brave enough to do the same. Outside, the moon rose full and heavy, its light streaming through the cottage windows. And in the palace throne room, Caius stood alone, staring at the place where Ophelia had knelt, where her silver light had saved him once again. His wolf whispered the truth he could no longer deny. She's ours. Choose her. Before it's too late. But choosing her meant defying the Luna Council. Risking rebellion. Possibly destroying his kingdom. Caius closed his eyes, feeling the bond pull tight in his chest, a lifeline and a noose all at once. The goddess had given him 7 chances to see the truth. Now she was waiting to see what he would do with it. Caius had never been a patient man, but desperation taught him new skills. For 3 days, he watched. Not as a king, kings were too visible, too constrained by protocol and expectation. Instead, he donned the simple brown tunic and worn boots of a palace guard, pulled his hair back beneath a cap, and moved through the servant corridors like a shadow. No one looked twice at him. The invisibility was both liberating and infuriating. He saw how the palace truly functioned, the gossip exchanged over laundry tubs, the hierarchy of servants, the way exhaustion lined faces that nobles never bothered to notice. And he saw her. Ophelia, moving through it all with quiet grace, her head down, her movements efficient. She'd wrapped her hands in fresh bandages after the throne room incident, hiding the silver veins that marked her as something other. But Caius could see past the disguise now. Every time she passed, his wolf stirred with recognition. The bond between them hummed like a plucked string, growing stronger with proximity. He began timing his patrols to coincide with her chores. Morning, she fed the wolves in the kennels, her voice soft as she murmured to them. Caius watched from the shadows as Ash pressed his massive head against her shoulder, as the pack surrounded her with protective affection. They knew what she was, even if the rest of the world remained blind. Afternoon, she scrubbed floors in the great hall, her scarred hands moving in steady circles. Once, a noble kicked over her bucket as he passed, laughing with his companions. Ophelia simply refilled it without complaint, without even looking up. But Caius saw the way her jaw tightened, the flash of silver in her eyes before she suppressed it. Evening, she mended clothes in the servant quarters, needle flashing in candlelight. He caught her humming again that ancient tune his mother had sung, the one only priestesses should know. The melody wrapped around him like a physical touch, making his wolf purr with contentment. And every time their eyes met, brief, accidental moments when she looked up and found him watching, the air between them crackled with unspoken need. She always looked away first. Always fled before he could approach. But the bond kept pulling them together anyway, inevitable as gravity. On the 4th day, Caius abandoned subtlety. He appeared at the servant quarters just after dawn, still dressed as a guard but no longer bothering to hide his purpose. Ophelia emerged carrying a basket of fresh linens, nearly colliding with him in the narrow corridor. "Your Majesty," she dropped into an awkward curtsy, the basket tilting dangerously. "I didn't, you shouldn't be here." "Why not?" He steadied the basket before it fell, his fingers brushing hers through the bandages. The contact sent electricity racing up his arm. "I go where I please in my own palace. The Luna Council can rot for all I care." The words came out harsher than intended. Caius softened his tone. Walk with me. It wasn't a request, but Ophelia shook her head anyway. I have duties, Your Majesty. The head housekeeper will. I'll handle the head housekeeper. He took the basket from her hands, ignoring her protest. Walk. With me. For a moment, he thought she'd refuse. Thought she'd run again, disappearing into the maze of servant passages where even a king couldn't easily follow. But something in his expression must have convinced her, because she nodded once, barely perceptible, and fell into step beside him. They walked in silence through the palace gardens, the early morning mist still clinging to rose bushes and stone paths. Caius carried her laundry basket like it was the most natural thing in the world, and tried to ignore the shocked stares of passing servants who recognized their king playing at being common. You're making this harder, Ophelia finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. The council wants me gone. If you keep seeking me out. They want you dead, Caius corrected flatly. Let's not pretty it up. Moira and her cronies fear what you represent. They should. She stopped walking, turning to face him. In the gray morning light, her eyes flickered between brown and silver, the eclipse child unable to fully suppress her nature anymore. I'm dangerous, Your Majesty. The prophecy doesn't promise salvation. It promises I'll either break your curse or fulfill it completely. There's no guarantee which. I don't care about prophecies. You should. Her hands clenched in her skirts. Mother Alara told me everything. The curse requires absolute choice of mind, body, heart, and soul. No hesitation. No doubt. If you choose me for the wrong reasons, if you accept me only because your wolf demands it and not because you truly want. I want you. The words tore from him with raw honesty. I've wanted you since the moment you touched me in that courtyard. Since I watched you calm my wolves with a gentleness no one else possesses. Since I heard you humming my mother's song and realized you carry magic older than this kingdom. He set down the basket, closing the distance between them. The curse didn't make me want you, Ophelia. It just made me finally see what was there all along. She looked up at him, tears shimmering in her strange eyes. And when the council demands you choose between me and your throne? When they threaten rebellion if you don't execute the witch who's bewitched their king? Will you still want me then? Caius opened his mouth to answer, to promise he'd burn the world before letting anyone hurt her, but footsteps on the garden path interrupted. Your Majesty. A servant skidded to a halt, bowing quickly. The feast, it's beginning. The nobles are asking for you. Caius cursed under his breath. He'd forgotten. The monthly banquet where nobles gathered to discuss politics and gossip, where his presence was expected. Required. He looked at Ophelia, who'd already stepped back, putting proper distance between them. Her mask of servitude had fallen back into place, eyes downcast, shoulders hunched, invisible again. I have to go, he said reluctantly. I know. She picked up the laundry basket. Your duties come first, Your Majesty. They always should. Before he could argue, she disappeared down a side path, leaving him standing alone in the mist. The feast was a glittering affair, nobles in silk and jewels, tables laden with roasted meats and fine wines, musicians playing in the gallery. Caius sat at the high table, enduring endless toasts and empty conversations, his mind elsewhere. His wolf prowled restlessly, wanting to leave, to find her, to complete the bond that pulled at him like a physical ache. Servants moved through the crowd with platters and pitchers. Caius tracked each one, searching for a particular face. There Ophelia, carrying wine, her bandaged hands steady despite the heavy vessel. She kept to the edges of the room, refilling goblets with practiced efficiency. No one looked at her. No one except him. Quite the spectacle, wasn't it? Lady Soren's voice cut through his thoughts. She lounged in the seat beside him, beautiful and cold. One of the 7 he'd rejected. Your little display in the throne room. Defending a common maid. Careful, Caius said quietly. "Oh, I'm always careful, Your Majesty." Her smile was razor-sharp. "But I wonder if you are. The servants are talking. They say you've been slumming in disguise, following that scarred little mouse around like a lovesick pup. It's rather undignified." Across the room, Ophelia approached a cluster of nobles with her wine pitcher. Caius watched as Lord Kieran said something to her too low for anyone else to hear that made her flinch. "She's bewitched you," Soren continued, oblivious to the danger in Caius's expression. "Used some forbidden magic to make you think she's special. But look at her." She gestured dismissively. "Plain. Damaged. Powerless. She's nothing, Your Majesty. Less than nothing." Ophelia reached Soren's group. As she bent to refill a goblet, Soren's hand shot out quickly, viciously, and knocked the pitcher from Ophelia's grasp. Red wine exploded across the floor. Splashed across Ophelia's gray dress. The room went silent. "Clumsy creature," Soren sneered, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Can't even perform basic servant tasks. Tell me, girl, did you bewitch our king with your fumbling incompetence? Or was it your stunningly ugly face?" Laughter rippled through the nobles. Not all of them looked uncomfortable, but enough. Enough to make it clear what they thought of the servant who'd somehow captured their king's attention. Ophelia kept her head down, kneeling to gather the broken pitcher pieces with shaking hands. "Forgive me, my lady. I'll clean this immediately." "You'll do more than clean it." Soren stood, looming over her. "You'll learn your place. Perhaps a few lashes will remind you that servants don't presume to touch their betters. Don't presume to heal kings with their filthy magic." Caius's chair scraped back. The sound cut through the room like a blade. Every head turned toward the high table, where their king stood with barely controlled fury radiating from his frame. His eyes blazed silver, his wolf so close to the surface that the temperature in the room seemed to drop. "Enough." One word. Spoken quietly. But it carried the weight of absolute authority. Caius descended from the dais with predatory grace, nobles scrambling to get out of his path. He crossed to where Ophelia still knelt in spilled wine and broken pottery, and extended his hand to her. "Stand up," he said gently. Ophelia looked at his hand like it was a trap. "Your Majesty, I..." "Take my hand, Ophelia." She did. Her bandaged fingers trembled as they gripped his, but she let him pull her to her feet. Let him position himself between her and Soren, a living shield. "This woman," Caius said, his voice carrying to every corner of the silent hall, "has done nothing but serve this palace with dignity and grace. She has healed me when I was dying. Protected me when I was vulnerable. And she will be shown the respect she deserves." "She's a servant," Soren protested, her face pale. "A nobody who..." "She is under my protection." Caius's wolf snarled in his voice, making several nobles step back in fear. "And anyone who harms her, humiliates her, or speaks of her with anything less than courtesy will answer to me. Personally. Am I clear?" Shocked silence. Then, slowly, nobles began nodding. Murmuring agreement. Soren looked like she'd been slapped. "Your Majesty, surely you can't mean..." "Out." Caius pointed to the door. "Leave my sight. Now." She fled, silk skirts rustling, humiliation burning in her wake. The feast dissolved into chaos, nobles whispering urgently, servants staring in shock, musicians forgotten in the gallery. But Caius only had eyes for Ophelia, who stood trembling beside him, wine staining her dress, tears threatening to spill. "Come with me," he said softly. This time, she didn't argue. He found her an hour later by the fountain in the moon garden. She'd fled after all, disappearing once they'd left the feast hall. But Caius knew where she'd go. The bond pulled him unerringly to the quiet garden where moonflowers bloomed and silver water burbled over ancient stone. Ophelia sat on the fountain's edge, her face buried in her hands, shoulders shaking with silent sobs. In the moonlight, her tears caught the silver glow, and as they fell, they crystallized, transformed into tiny shards of luminous crystal that tinkled like bells as they struck the stone. Caius froze, watching in wonder as she wept diamonds of light. "You shouldn't have defended me," she said without looking up. "You've made everything worse. The council will see it as confirmation that I've bewitched you. They'll demand my execution. I don't care." He moved to sit beside her, careful not to touch. "Not yet. Let them demand. Let them threaten. I'm done pretending you don't matter. I'll destroy you." Her voice broke. The curse has already destroyed me. You're the only thing putting me back together." He reached out, catching one of her crystallized tears in his palm. It pulsed with warmth, with power, with the essence of what she was. And then it burned. Not painful but transformative. The crystal sank into his palm, searing a mark into his flesh. Silver light blazed from the contact, spreading up his arm like liquid fire. Caius gasped, watching his ancient symbols carve themselves into his skin, the seventh mark, the bond seal, the goddess's final claim. When the light faded, he stared at his palm. 7 interlocking circles glowed faintly against his skin, pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat. With Ophelia's heartbeat. With the bond that could no longer be denied. "What did you do?" he whispered. Ophelia looked at the mark, her eyes wide with horror. No, that's not supposed to." Mother Alara said the mark only forms when what? She met his gaze, tears still streaming down her face. "When the bond becomes unbreakable. When 2 souls merge so completely that if one dies, the other follows." Her voice dropped to a broken whisper. "Your life is bound to mine now, Caius. Completely. If the Luna Council executes me, you die too. If you reject me, we both die. The goddess has tied our fates together." Caius looked at the mark on his palm, at the silver circles that pulsed with shared life, and felt something settle in his chest. Not fear. Don't panic. Certainty. "Good," he said quietly. "Good?" Ophelia stared at him like he'd lost his mind. "You could die. I was already dying. 7 rejections, remember? My wolf was withering away, taking me with it." He cupped her face with his marked hand, forcing her to meet his eyes. "But every time you touch me, I feel alive again. Every time you're near, my wolf stops screaming and starts singing." He pressed his forehead to hers, breathing her in moonlight and magic and home. "If my life is bound to yours now, then so be it. I choose this. I choose you. Whatever comes next. The curse demands absolute choice. Mind, body, heart, and soul." He pulled back just enough to look at her properly. "You have all of me, Ophelia. Every broken piece. I'm choosing you not because my wolf demands it, not because the goddess decreed it, but because you are the bravest, strongest, most extraordinary person I've ever met. And I would rather die bound to you than live 1,000 years without you." Ophelia's breath caught. Her tears stopped falling, crystallized shards littering the ground around them like fallen stars. "Say it again," she whispered. "Say you choose me." "I choose you." He kissed her forehead, her temples, her tear-stained cheeks. "I choose you, eclipse child. Hidden air. Forbidden magic. Scarred hands and silver eyes. All of you. Now and always." The mark on his palm blazed with light, and Ophelia gasped as matching symbols appeared on her own hand, 7 circles binding them together across space and fate and the goddess's terrible games. "The bond is complete," she breathed. "We're bound." Caius laced their marked hands together, watching silver light pulse where their skin met. "For better or worse. Till death claims us both." Above them, the moon pulsed once approval or warning, neither could tell. But in that moment, with crystallized tears scattered like blessings around them and their marked hands pressed together, neither of them cared. The curse still hung over them. The Luna Council still wanted her dead. War was coming. But they would face it together now. The goddess had given them 7 chances to find each other. They'd finally taken it. Esme's hands trembled as she traced the mark on Caius's palm, her blind eyes weeping silver tears. "The 7th seal," she whispered, her voice thick with awe and terror. "The moon goddess's final binding. I've only read of it in the oldest texts, the ones written before your ancestor cursed the bloodline." Caius stood perfectly still in the seer's tower chamber, Ophelia beside him. Their marked hands remained clasped, neither willing to break the connection. "What does it mean?" "It means the goddess has accepted your choice. The bond is complete, 2 souls merged into one." Esme released his hand, her expression grave. "But the seal doesn't break the curse." "Not yet. It only sets the stage for the final test." "What test?" Ophelia asked, her voice steady despite the fear Caius could feel thrumming through their bond. "The blood moon." Esme moved to her window, where the sky was darkening toward evening. "In 3 days' time, the rarest moon will rise, the one that comes once in a generation. Under its light, all illusions fall away. All truths are revealed. The goddess will judge whether your bond is worthy." She turned back to them, her face carved with shadows. "If you pass, the curse shatters completely. Your bloodline is freed. But if you fail, if doubt or fear or pride corrupts the bond, the alpha line ends. Forever. Not just you, your majesty. Every wolf carrying your blood will die when the moon sets." The weight of it pressed down like a physical thing. Caius felt Ophelia's hand tighten in his, and felt her pulse racing against his palm. "How do we pass?" he demanded. "By standing together under the blood moon's light and allowing the goddess to see the truth of your hearts. No lies. No masks. Complete vulnerability." Esme's voice dropped to barely a whisper. "But the Luna Council will not allow it. They know the prophecy. They know that if the Eclipse Child completes the bond, their power over the throne crumbles. They will do everything in their power to prevent you from reaching that moon together." "Then we hide her," Caius said immediately. "Until the blood moon rises, I keep Ophelia somewhere they can't." "You can't hide from the goddess," Esme interrupted. "The moon sees all, your majesty. And the council sees more than you think." Caius tried anyway. He moved Ophelia to the abandoned East Tower, a crumbling structure that servants avoided, claiming it was haunted. He stationed his most loyal guards outside, men who'd served his father and owed no allegiance to the Luna Council. He brought her food himself, disguised in his servant's garb, and spent stolen hours teaching her to suppress the silver glow that now pulsed constantly beneath her skin. "The mark makes it worse," Ophelia said on the 2nd day, staring at her glowing palm. "Before, I could hide what I am. Now." She gestured helplessly at her reflection in the window. "Even in daylight, she seemed to shimmer with moonlight. Everyone who sees me will know." "Then no one sees you." Caius pulled her close, breathing in the scent of her hair, jasmine and starlight. 3 days. We just need to survive 3 days, and then... And then what? She looked up at him, her eyes that impossible mix of silver and gold. "The curse breaks, and the council accepts me as your mate? They crown the witch who bewitched their king as queen." She laughed bitterly. "They'll tear the kingdom apart before allowing that. Let them try." His wolf growled in his voice, possessive and deadly. "You're mine, Ophelia. I'll burn this palace to the ground before I let them take you from me." That's what Edician nobles gather to honor the goddess, priestesses performing rituals, the kingdom celebrating the rare celestial event. But this year, the celebration felt more like a funeral march. "I'm afraid of," she whispered. Below them, in the palace's grand hall, preparations for the Blood Moon Festival continued. It was Tra. Caius could feel it in the air, something dark gathering, a storm about to break. Lady Juliana had always been clever, beautiful, ambitious, and consumed by the humiliation of being rejected by the Alpha King. She'd spent weeks watching, waiting. And when Caius began his secret trips to the East Tower, she followed. She saw the guards he posted, saw the way he carried food wrapped in cloth, saw the silver light flickering in the high window when night fell. And she understood. The maid. The one who'd disrupted the ceremony, who'd glowed with forbidden power in the throne room. The one the king defended with deadly fury. She was hidden in that tower. Juliana smiled to herself, a plan forming. If she exposed the witch, the council would have no choice but to act. They'd execute her before the blood moon rose, before whatever goddess-blessed bond could form between her and the king. And when Caius fell apart from grief, when his wolf died from the severed connection, well, the kingdom would need a new leader. Someone strong. Someone beautiful. Someone like her. She waited until the evening of the second day, when Caius was locked in endless council meetings about festival preparations. Then she made her move. High Priestess Moira, Juliana said sweetly, approaching the old woman in the temple. I have information you'll want to hear. About the witch who's enchanted our king. They came for Ophelia at dawn. Caius was in his chamber when the commotion started, shouts echoing from the east wing, the sound of splintering wood, his guards bellowing protests. He ran, his wolf surging forward, but he was too late. The Luna Council had brought their own guards, 20 men in silver armor, carrying chains inscribed with binding runes. They'd smashed through the tower door and dragged Ophelia out, her hands bound, her power suppressed by the magical restraints. No! Caius roared, his wolf erupting to the surface. He tried to reach her, but more guards blocked his path. Let her go. Stand down, Alpha King, Moira commanded, her voice ringing with divine authority. This woman is accused of witchcraft, of using forbidden magic to bewitch and manipulate the throne. She will face judgment before the blood moon rises. She's done nothing wrong. She exists, Moira said coldly. The Eclipse Child is an abomination, a violation of the goddess's natural order. The prophecy speaks of salvation or destruction, but it does not promise which. We cannot risk our kingdom on the whims of a cursed maid. Ophelia struggled against her chains, silver light flickering weakly around the binding runes. Her eyes found Caius's across the crowd of guards, and he felt her terror through their bond, sharp and consuming. I'm sorry, her expression said. I'm so sorry. You have no authority to do this, Caius snarled, forcing his wolf back enough to speak coherently. I am your king. She is under my protection. You are compromised, Lord Kieran interjected, appearing from the crowd with other council members. Bewitched by dark magic. We act to save you, your majesty. To save us all. The trial will commence immediately, Moira announced. Before the blood moon rises tonight. The goddess will judge whether this girl lives or dies. If she dies, Caius said, his voice dropping to something primal and deadly, I die with her. The seventh seal has bound our lives together. Kill her, and you kill your king. Shocked silence rippled through the gathered crowd. Moira's face went white. You completed the bond? Knowing what she is? Knowing the risk? I completed the bond knowing exactly who she is. Caius straightened to his full height, every inch the Alpha King despite the chaos around him. Ophelia is my true mate. The one the goddess intended all along. And if you execute her before the blood moon can judge our worthiness, you don't just kill us, you damn the entire bloodline. Every wolf carrying my ancestors' blood will die when that moon sets. Is that what you want, High Priestess? Mass extinction because you're too afraid to let the goddess's will play out? Moira's hands clenched in her silver robes. Around them, nobles murmured in fear and confusion. The mark on Caius's palm blazed with light, and answering light pulsed from Ophelia's bound hands. The trial proceeds, Moira finally said, her voice shaking with barely controlled fury. "But the king will be held in his chambers until judgment is rendered. We cannot allow him to interfere with divine justice." "You can't." Guards swarmed him. Caius fought his wolf roaring, his strength supernatural, but there were too many, and they'd brought chains carved with the same binding runes that held Ophelia. The metal burned as it wrapped around his wrists, suppressing his power, caging his wolf. "Caius!" Ophelia screamed his name, struggling against her captors. "I'll find you," he called back as they dragged him toward the palace. "I swear it. Before that moon rises, I'll..." The butt of a spear slammed into his head, and the world went dark. Caius woke in his chamber to the sound of chanting. He lurched upright, chains clanking. The binding runes glowed faintly against his skin, keeping his wolf suppressed, his strength dampened. Outside his window, the sky was darkening not with night, but with the approaching blood moon. Already, the celestial event was beginning. The moon rose huge and red, staining the clouds crimson. And through his bond with Ophelia, Caius felt everything. Her terror. Her pain. Her resignation. They'd taken her to the courtyard. The place where he'd rejected 7 women. Where his curse had nearly killed him. Where she'd first touched him and changed everything. Now it would be the place where they judged her. "I'm sorry," her voice whispered through the bond, faint but clear. "I tried to run. I tried to fight. But they're too strong." "Don't apologize," he sent back fiercely. "I'm coming. Just hold on." But the chains held him trapped, and the door was barred from outside, and the blood moon kept rising. Caius closed his eyes in desperation, reaching not for his wolf which the runes suppressed but for something deeper. The bond. The connection to the goddess herself, forged through Ophelia's eclipse bloodline. Please, he prayed to the deity who'd cursed his family, who'd tested him through 7 rejections, who'd hidden his true mate in plain sight for years. Please. If this is your game, if you truly want us to pass your test, then help me. Show me how to reach her. For a moment, nothing. Just the sound of his own breathing, the distant chanting, the rising moon. Then light exploded behind his eyes. The vision slammed into him with the force of a physical blow. He saw Ophelia not as the servant girl or even the eclipse child, but as her true form. A wolf of pure light and shadow, magnificent and terrible, her fur shimmering with both silver and darkness. She stood chained in moonfire, divine flames licking at her paws, her eyes blazing with power and fear. And standing before her was the goddess herself, ancient and beautiful and merciless. As the final test approached, the goddess's voice echoed through the vision. Your mate stands in the fire of judgment. If you would save her, you must offer yourself in her place. Trade your life for hers. Sacrifice your throne, your power, your very existence. Only absolute surrender will break the curse I laid upon your line. The vision shattered. Caius gasped, falling back against the bed as understanding crashed over him. The curse had never been about finding Ophelia. It had been about what he'd do once he found her. His ancestor had chosen pride over love. Power over bond. Beauty over truth. Now Caius had to choose differently. He had to be willing to give up everything, throne, kingdom, life itself for a scarred maid the world had overlooked. Outside, the blood moon rose higher, its crimson light flooding through his window. And in the courtyard below, guards dragged Ophelia before the Luna Council, their voices rising in accusation as they prepared to execute the witch who dared to bewitch their king. Caius looked at the chains binding him, at the locked door, at the impossible distance between himself and his mate. Then he threw back his head and howled. The sound was primal, agonized, a call that transcended the physical chains. Every wolf in the kingdom felt it, a summons from their alpha, a desperate plea for aid. In the kennels, Ash and his pack began to howl in response. In the surrounding forests, wild wolves lifted their voices. And in the courtyard, as the council raised their silver blades to strike Ophelia down, the blood moon finally crested the palace walls, bathing everything in light the color of blood and redemption. The final test had begun. The howling saved him. Caius's call resonated through the palace like a shockwave, and somewhere in the chaos of response, guards running to investigate, servants panicking, wolves throughout the kingdom answering their alpha's desperate summons, someone forgot to reinforce the door. Or perhaps the goddess herself unlocked it. Either way, when Caius threw himself against the wood, it splintered. The binding chain still suppressed his wolf, still burned against his skin, but rage gave him strength no magic could contain. He burst into the corridor, startling the 2 guards posted outside. "Your Majesty, you can't." Caius didn't stop to argue. He ran, chains clanking, the mark on his palm blazing with silver fire. Through his bond with Ophelia, he felt everything, her terror as they bound her to the judgment post, her pain as the magical restraints burned her skin, her resignation as she prepared to die. "Hold on," he sent through their connection. "I'm coming." Her response was faint, broken, "Don't. They'll kill you too. Then we die together." The blood moon's crimson light flooded the corridors, turning everything the color of violence. Caius descended the grand staircase 3 steps at a time, his heart hammering in rhythm with Ophelia's. Behind him, he heard shouts of guards pursuing, but he was faster, desperation lending him speed. The courtyard doors loomed ahead, already open. Beyond them, he could see the gathered crowd, the flickering torches, the judgment post where his mate waited to die. Caius burst through the entrance just as High Priestess Moira raised her ceremonial blade. "Stop!" His voice cracked across the courtyard like thunder. Every head turned toward him, nobles in their finery, priestesses in silver robes, guards with weapons drawn. And at the center of it all, bound to the ancient judgment post beneath the blood moon's merciless gaze, Ophelia. She looked like something from a nightmare or a dream. Her servant's gray dress was torn and stained, her hair falling loose around her shoulders. The binding chains glowed with suppressive runes, but her power was too strong to contain completely. Silver light pulsed beneath her skin like a second heartbeat, and her eyes, those impossible eyes that shifted between gold and silver, locked onto him with desperate hope. "Your Majesty," Moira said coldly, lowering but not sheathing her blade. "You were ordered to remain in your chambers. This trial does not concern. This trial concerns everything." Caius strode forward, his own chains dragging against the courtyard stones. "You cannot execute her without judging me as well. Our lives are bound. Kill her, and you kill your king. Then we shall try you both," Lord Kieran announced, stepping forward with the other Luna Council members. "For crimes against the kingdom. For allowing dark magic to infiltrate the throne. For completing a forbidden bond with an abomination." The crowd murmured, some in agreement, others in shock. Caius could see the fear in their faces, the uncertainty. They didn't know what to believe. Whether their king was bewitched or blessed. Whether the girl bound before them was savior or destroyer. "Proceed with the trial," Moira declared. "Let the goddess judge them both beneath her blood moon. Let the truth be revealed." Guards moved to position Caius beside Ophelia, though they wisely didn't try to bind him to the post. He stood as close as the chains allowed, his marked hand reaching for hers. Their fingers intertwined despite the restraints, and warmth flooded through him, her presence steadying the wolf that raged inside his suppressed chest. "You shouldn't have come," Ophelia whispered, her voice hoarse. "They'll kill you. Not without trying to kill me first." He squeezed her hand. "And I don't die easily." Despite everything, the chains, the blood moon, the blades pointed at them, she smiled. "Small and broken, but real. Stubborn alpha." "You're stubborn alpha," he corrected softly. Moira's staff slammed against the stone, calling for silence. "We are gathered beneath the blood moon to witness divine judgment." The accused Ophelia, maid of the palace, and Alpha King Caius stand charged with the following crimes: practicing forbidden magic, forming an unholy bond, and defying the will of the Luna Council, which serves as the goddess's voice on earth. You are not her voice, Ophelia said suddenly, her voice stronger now. You're just people who fear what they don't understand. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Moira's face darkened with fury. You dare. I dare to speak the truth beneath the goddess's own moon. Ophelia lifted her chin, and despite the chains, despite her torn dress and bound hands, she looked regal. Powerful. You call me an abomination because I was born under a forbidden eclipse. But the goddess doesn't make mistakes. She created me for a purpose, to break a curse born of pride and vanity. To teach an alpha king to see with his heart instead of his eyes. Lies, Moira hissed. You seduced him with dark magic. Made him believe you were his mate when the goddess had already chosen 7 worthy women. The goddess chose no one, Caius interrupted, his voice carrying across the courtyard. Those 7 women were chosen by you. By the council. By people who wanted to control who I bonded with, who would share my throne. He looked at Moira directly. You're terrified because Ophelia represents something you can't manipulate. A bond formed by genuine recognition, not political arrangement. So you call her a witch. Brand her dangerous. Try to execute her before the blood moon can prove you wrong. The blood moon proves nothing, Lord Kieran argued. It merely reveals what is hidden. And when it reveals the darkness in her. Look at her, Caius commanded, his wolf surging despite the suppressive chains. Power radiated from him, primal and undeniable. Look at her and tell me you see darkness. As if in response, Ophelia's magic flared. The binding runes couldn't contain it anymore, not beneath the blood moon's light, not with her mate beside her, not with the goddess's attention focused on them like a physical weight. Silver light exploded from her skin, bright as lightning, illuminating the entire courtyard. And in that light, everyone saw. Not the scarred servant. Not the plain maid they'd overlooked for years. But the eclipsed child in her true glory, radiant and terrible, her hair floating on invisible currents, her eyes blazing with power that was neither light nor shadow but both woven together. The lost daughter of the lunar bloodline, the goddess's hidden heir, more divine than any priestess in that courtyard. The crowd fell silent, awestruck and terrified in equal measure. Moira stumbled backward, her ceremonial blade clattering from nerveless fingers. Impossible, she breathed. The eclipsed child was supposed to be dead. The last lunar priestess had no heir. She had me. Ophelia's voice resonated with power, echoing as if multiple voices spoke through her. Born under a moon that fused light and shadow. Born to break the curse laid upon the Alpha bloodline. Born to prove that true, freely chosen love is stronger than any judgment. The blood moon pulsed above them, and for a moment, Caius felt the goddess's presence wash over the courtyard, ancient and vast and watching. Ophelia turned to him, her glowing eyes softening as they met him. You rejected me 7 times, my king, she said quietly, though her voice carried to every corner of the space. 7 times you passed me by without seeing. 7 times fate tried to show you the truth, and pride kept you blind. Shame burned through him. Ophelia. But I never stopped loving you, she continued, tears streaming down her face, not crystallizing this time, but pure and human and heartbreaking. Even when you looked through me. Even when the curse made me invisible. Even when I knew claiming you might destroy us both. I loved you. I love you still. And I would choose you 7 times 7 if the goddess demanded it. Something cracked in Caius's chest, the last wall he'd been holding against the full force of their bond. His wolf surged forward, no longer growling or demanding or possessive, but simply, complete. Whole. Home. Mine, his wolf whispered with absolute certainty, the word reverberating through both of them. The mark on Caius's palm blazed bright enough to blind, and Ophelia's matching mark answered. Silver light connected them, visible as a thread of pure power running from his heart to hers. The air in the courtyard thickened, pressing down like a physical presence. Divine energy crackled across every surface. And through it all, a voice spoke not with words, but with sensation, with knowing that resonated in every soul present. Love, not blood, defines destiny. Choice, not fate, seals the bond. This alpha saw beyond surface to soul, and this child offered her truth despite fear of rejection. The curse is satisfied. The test is passed. The goddess herself had spoken. Ophelia gasped, her body going rigid as divine power flooded through her. Her eyes rolled back, and when they opened again, they glowed pure silver, the goddess looking through her chosen vessel. The eclipse child was hidden to protect her from those who would use her power, the goddess's voice said through Ophelia's lips, majestic and terrible. But also to test the alpha bloodline one final time. Would a king cursed by his ancestors' vanity learn humility? Would he see worth in what others dismissed? Would he choose love over pride, bond over power, truth over appearance? The goddess's attention turned to Moira and the Luna Council. He has. The curse is broken. The bloodline is freed. Anyone who threatens this bond threatens me directly. The divine presence retreated, leaving Ophelia gasping and trembling. Caius caught her as her knees buckled, supporting her weight despite his own chains. Silence reigned in the courtyard. No one moved. No one breathed. Then Moira's face twisted with something ugly, fear and fury and desperation. No, she snarled. I don't care what voice speaks through the witch. The Luna Council has guarded this kingdom for generations. We will not allow some cursed maid to execute her, Lord Kieran commanded suddenly, his face pale but resolved. Now. Before she can twist more minds with her magic. The king is compromised. We act for the good of the realm. The goddess herself, just someone in the crowd protested. The goddess speaks when we allow it, Moira interrupted, raising her blade once more. And I say this girl dies. Guards strike her down. For a heartbeat, no one moved. The command was too shocking, too obviously wrong. Then silver-armored guards stepped forward, weapons raised, duty warring with conscience on their faces. And Caius felt something inside him snap. The binding chains meant to suppress his wolf shattered like glass. Power exploded from him, pure, primal, absolutely feral. His eyes blazed silver, his wolf surging to the surface with a roar that shook the palace walls. You will not touch her. The temperature dropped 20 degrees. Frost spread across the courtyard stones. Every wolf within a mile radius felt their alpha's rage and howled in response. Caius's transformation was incomplete, hovering between man and beast, his face elongating, claws extending, power radiating from him in visible waves. He stood between Ophelia and the advancing guards, a living shield, ready to tear apart anyone who dared approach. Stand down, your majesty, Moira warned, though her voice shook. You are outnumbered. We have silver weapons, binding magic. I don't care. His voice was barely human, his wolf speaking through gritted fangs. You want her? You go through me. And I promise I will take half of you with me before I fall. The blood moon pulsed above them, its crimson light making everything look like a battlefield already soaked in blood. The guards hesitated, looking to Moira for guidance. And the high priestess, her face hard with zealous conviction, gave the order that would doom them all. Kill them both. The goddess will understand. The first guard who moved forward never saw the attack coming. Caius's clawed hand caught him across the chest, sending him flying backward into the crowd. Blood sprayed across the courtyard stones was not fatal, but brutal enough to make the message clear. The partially transformed Alpha stood over Ophelia like a demon from ancient stories, his body caught between human and wolf, his eyes blazing with silver fire that had nothing to do with magic and everything to do with primal, possessive rage. I warned you, he snarled, his voice barely recognizable. Come closer and die. 3 more guards advanced, their silver weapons gleaming in the blood moon's light. Silver, the one metal that could harm shifters, that could cut through supernatural healing. They'd come prepared to kill their king if Caius met them with violence that bordered on beauty. He moved faster than anything human should move, his partially shifted form granting him strength and speed beyond even a normal alpha. His claws raked across silver armor, denting metal, drawing blood. When one guard thrust a spear at his chest, Caius caught the shaft and snapped it like kindling, then used the broken end to sweep the man's legs out from under him. Another guard swung a silver blade at his throat. Caius ducked beneath it and came up with an uppercut that lifted the man off his feet. The sound of breaking bones echoed across the courtyard. "Stop him!" Moira screamed, her composure finally cracking. "Use the binding spells! Contain him!" Priestesses rushed forward, chanting in the old language, their hands glowing with suppressive magic. But Caius's wolf was too far gone, too deep in the instinct to protect Maid at all costs. The binding spells slid off him like water, unable to find purchase on something so primal it existed beyond magic. He was magnificent and terrifying in equal measure, a force of nature given flesh, unstoppable and deadly. But he was also dying. Ophelia could feel it through their bond. Each transformation pushed him closer to the edge, the curse that had weakened his wolf for 5 years finally reaching its breaking point. The 7 rejections, the 7 scars on his chest, glowed now with poisonous light, spreading like cracks through ice. His body couldn't sustain this level of power. Couldn't hold both forms at once without tearing itself apart. He's going to burn himself out, she realized with horror. Kill himself trying to save me. Caius, she screamed, struggling against her chains. Stop. You're dying. He didn't hear her. Couldn't hear anything over the roar of his wolf, the thunder of blood in his ears, the single imperative that consumed his entire existence: protect Maid. Kill threats. Defend her. 10 guards lay broken or bleeding around him now. More advanced, emboldened by numbers or foolish enough to think they could overwhelm him. Lord Kieran had drawn his own blade, his face set with grim determination. For the kingdom, Kieran said, and lunged. Caius caught him by the throat, lifting him off the ground with one clawed hand. His grip tightened, and Kieran's face turned purple, his legs kicking uselessly. Caius, no. Ophelia's voice cut through the red haze. Don't kill him. Don't become the monster they think you are. For a moment, something human flickered in Caius's silver eyes. He looked at the man choking in his grip, at the blood on his claws, at the carnage he'd created. Horror and confusion warred across his face. Then the curse surged. Pain exploded through Caius's chest, so intense he dropped Kieran and staggered backward. The 7 scars blazed like brands, the curse denied its 7 rejections, twisted by the completed bond, pushed beyond all limits, finally demanding its price. Caius screamed, a sound half human and half wolf that echoed across the palace grounds. His body convulsed, caught between forms, tearing itself apart from the inside. Silver light and shadow leaked from the cracks spreading across his chest, his heart visible through the gaps, beating too fast, too hard, struggling to sustain a form that shouldn't exist. He was losing himself completely. Falling into the transformation with no way back. In moments, he'd be a full wolf, powerful and mindless, a beast that would kill everyone in the courtyard before the curse finally stopped his heart. No. Ophelia's chains shattered. Not broken. Exploded into silver dust as her power erupted, fueled by desperation and love and the goddess's blessing still resonating through her veins. She ran across the blood-slicked stones, past guards too shocked to stop her, past priestesses still chanting useless binding spells. She reached Caius just as he began to fall, his body convulsing, dying. Her glowing hands pressed against his chest, right over his laboring heart, right over the 7 scars that were killing him. Heat seared her palms, the curse trying to burn her away, but she held on with strength she didn't know she possessed. Caius, she whispered fiercely. Listen to me. Come back. His eyes were more wolf than man, now focused on her with difficulty. Can't, his expression said. Too far gone. You can. She leaned closer, her forehead pressing against his, her power flooding into him not to fight the curse, but to anchor him. To give him something to hold on to. Remember what my mother taught me. What Mother Alara made me memorize. The ancient vow that binds souls. She could feel the memories, rising fragments from the childhood she barely remembered, her mother's voice singing in the dark, words older than kingdoms. The lunar priestess's sacred vow, meant to call lost souls home. Ophelia closed her eyes and spoke the words in the old language, her voice resonating with power. By light and shadow, I call your soul home. The effect was immediate. Caius's convulsions stopped, his body going rigid against her. By moon and star, I bind your broken pieces. The silver scars on his chest began to glow not with poison, but with healing light. Ophelia's power poured into him, seeking out every crack, every wound, every piece of him that the curse had damaged. By blood and bone, I make you whole again. The transformation reversed. Slowly, painfully, but undeniably. Fur receded. Claws retracted. His face reformed into human features still strong, still beautiful, but no longer monstrous. By heart and soul, I claim you as mine. Now and always. Bound beyond death. Bound beyond fate. The final words of the vow echoed across the courtyard, and something fundamental shifted in the fabric of reality. Light exploded from where they touched, pure, blinding, absolute. Not the silver of Ophelia's magic or the golden glow of divine power, but something that transcended both. White light so bright it turned the blood moon pale, so intense that nobles screamed and covered their eyes, so powerful that the ancient stones of the courtyard cracked beneath the force. The curse, weakened by 7 rejections and finally broken by absolute love, shattered. Not gradually. Not gently. But like a dam bursting, releasing 5 years of accumulated pain and poison in one catastrophic release. The 7 scars on Caius's chest blazed one final time, then dissolved into light. The binding that had chained his wolf, that had made him reject mate after mate, that had slowly killed him, simply ceased to exist. The shockwave of its breaking rolled out in visible waves, flattening guards, sending priestesses tumbling, shaking the palace to its foundations. The moon itself trembled in the sky, its crimson light flickering as if even the celestial body felt the breaking of a curse that had endured for 3 generations. And at the center of the destruction, Ophelia held Caius as he collapsed, the transformation finally complete. Not a wolf. Not a beast. Just a man unconscious but breathing, his chest rising and falling steadily, his heart beating strong and sure beneath her palms. The curse was broken. But the price had nearly killed them both. Ophelia's vision blurred, exhaustion crashing over her like a physical weight. She'd poured everything she had into saving him, every ounce of power, every fragment of strength, every piece of herself. Now she had nothing left. She collapsed beside Caius, her body finally giving out. As she fell, she felt the changes rippling through her. The binding Mother Alara had placed on her wolf, the illusion that had hidden her true nature for 18 years finally, completely dissolved. The scars that had marked her hands since childhood faded like morning mist. Her plain features refined into the beauty she'd been born with, the beauty her mother had possessed, the ethereal grace of the lunar bloodline made manifest. She was, for the first time in her life, completely and utterly herself. No disguises. No glamour. Just Ophelia, the Eclipse child, daughter of the last lunar priestess, mate of the Alpha King. Around them, the courtyard lay in ruins. Guards groaned, struggling to their feet. Nobles clung to each other in shock. Priestesses stared at the devastation with wide, frightened eyes. High Priestess Moira pushed herself up from where she'd been thrown, blood trickling from a cut on her forehead. She looked at the 2 unconscious figures in the center of the destruction, Alpha King and his mate, bathed in fading light, clearly alive but utterly vulnerable. Her hand found her fallen blade. This isn't over, she rasped, limping forward with grim determination. The goddess may have spoken, but the Luna Council still holds authority. That girl Eclipse child or not threatened our kingdom. Nearly killed our king. She must face. She saved him. The voice came from everywhere and nowhere, resonating through the air itself. The blood moon pulsed, and suddenly everyone in that courtyard felt it, the goddess's attention, focused and absolute. When she spoke again, her voice came through the moon itself. The curse is broken. The test is passed. But the final choice remains. A figure materialized between Moira and the unconscious pair, not solid, but made of moonlight and shadow, beautiful and terrible. The goddess herself, or at least a projection of her will. My Alpha King has proven he can see beyond surface to soul. He chose love over pride, bond over power. But one question remains unanswered. The apparition looked down at Caius, still unconscious, his chest now unmarred by scars. When he woke, he would be free, no curse binding him, no forced blindness, no restrictions on who or what he could see. He would see Ophelia as she truly was. The Eclipse child. The goddess's heir. Powerful and beautiful and divine. Now he must choose again, the goddess whispered, her voice carrying to every corner of the courtyard. Not by sight, but by soul. Not because his wolf demands it, but because his heart desires it. Not the Eclipse child with her power and beauty, but Ophelia. Just Ophelia. The woman beneath the magic. The soul he's fallen in love with. The apparition faded, leaving only moonlight and the echo of divine will. When he wakes, he chooses freely. With no curse to guide him. No bond to force him. Just man and woman, standing before each other in truth. If he chooses her still truly, completely, with no reservations, then the bond is sealed forever. If he does not, the goddess didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Everyone understood. The curse was broken, yes. But the bond could still fail. Caius could wake, see Ophelia's divine power, her connection to forces beyond his understanding, and choose duty over love. Choose his kingdom over his mate. Walk away from the woman who'd saved him, because accepting her meant accepting chaos and change and a future no one could predict. The goddess had given him freedom. Now she would see what he did with it. In the ruins of the courtyard, beneath the watchful blood moon, Ophelia and Caius lay unconscious, their fates intertwined but not yet sealed, their story balanced on the edge of a choice not yet made. The trial was over. But the true test was about to begin. Caius woke to silver light and silence. For a moment, he lay perfectly still, cataloging sensations. The cool stone beneath him. The whisper of wind carrying jasmine and smoke. The absence of pain, blessed, miraculous absence where the 7 scars had burned for 5 years. His chest felt whole. Empty of the curse that had hollowed him out, but also strangely light, as if he'd been carrying a weight so long he'd forgotten what freedom felt like. The curse is broken. The realization hit him with startling clarity. He could feel it, or rather, feel the lack of it. No invisible chains around his wolf. No forced blindness. No dying pull toward oblivion. Just silence. Peace. Wholeness. And something else. A thread of warmth in his chest, connecting him to Ophelia. His eyes snapped open. The blood moon had passed. In its place, a normal moon hung in the pre-dawn sky, full and silver and beautiful. Its light illuminated the ruined courtyard, the broken stones and scattered weapons, the guards and nobles who'd collapsed in exhaustion around the edges. And at the center of it all, sitting against the judgment post with her eyes closed, was the woman who'd saved him. Caius's breath caught. He'd seen glimpses of her true form before in the mirror's reflection, in moments when her power flared, in the divine light that had poured from her when the goddess spoke through her lips. But this was different. This was Ophelia, with no curse suppressing her, no glamour hiding her, no crisis demanding her attention. Just her. As the goddess had made her. She was devastating. Not in the way the 7 rejected women had been beautiful, polished and perfect and deliberately arranged. Ophelia's beauty was something wilder, more elemental. Her hair fell in waves of honey gold that seemed to catch moonlight and hold it. Her skin glowed faintly with the silver veins that marked her as the eclipse child, pulsing in rhythm with her heartbeat. Her features were delicate but strong, high cheekbones, full lips slightly parted in unconsciousness, dark lashes resting against her cheeks. And when she breathed, small motes of light danced around her like fireflies, as if even the air recognized her divinity. She looked like a goddess herself. Powerful. Ethereal. Completely beyond his reach. Terror seized Caius's heart. This is what the goddess meant, he realized. The final test. Not whether I could see her true form, but whether I'd still choose her once I did. Because this woman, this divine, luminous, impossibly powerful creature didn't need him. Didn't need an alpha king or a kingdom or a mate bound by curse and prophecy. She was the eclipse child, the lost heir of the lunar bloodline. She could walk away from this palace, this bond, this disaster of a courtship, and probably be better for it. What did he have to offer her except a broken kingdom, a hostile council, and a lifetime of fighting for acceptance? Nothing, his traitorous mind whispered. You have nothing she needs. But then her eyes opened. Gold and silver, swirling together like dawn and dusk, merged into one impossible moment. They focused on him slowly, consciousness returning in gentle stages. When recognition sparked in those otherworldly eyes, her entire face transformed, not with divine power or otherworldly beauty, but with something far more devastating. Joy. Pure, uncomplicated joy. Caius, she breathed, his name a prayer on her lips. You're awake. You're alive. And just like that, she wasn't the eclipse child or the goddess's heir or some untouchable divine being. She was just Ophelia, the woman who'd cleaned his floors and calmed his wolves and saved his life 3 times over. The woman who'd wept crystal tears when he defended her. The woman who'd loved him when he was too blind to see her. The woman who was looking at him like he was her entire world. Something cracked open in Caius's chest, not pain this time, but the opposite. Like a dam breaking, releasing 5 years of loneliness and fear and desperate searching. His wolf, silent since the curse shattered, stirred for the first time. Not with desperation or possessive rage, but with simple, absolute certainty, home. Mate. Ours. Ophelia, Caius said, his voice rough with emotion. He tried to stand, but his legs wouldn't support him yet. So instead, he did something no Alpha King had done in living memory. He knelt. Not the formal kneel of ceremony or the warrior's kneel of surrender. But something deeper, more vulnerable. He knelt before her in the ruins of the courtyard, his head bowed, his hands open and empty. All this time, he whispered, tears he didn't bother to hide sliding down his face, I looked at you and never saw you. You were right there every day, every moment, and I was too blind, too proud, too cursed to recognize what the goddess had given me. Caius, Ophelia's voice broke. She started to rise, to go to him, but he held up one hand. Let me say this. Please. He looked up at her, letting her see everything, his fear, his love, his absolute certainty. The curse is broken. I'm free to see clearly now, free to choose without divine interference. And I see you, Ophelia. Not the eclipse child. Not the goddess's heir or the one who wields divine power. I saw a woman who was kind to wolves when no one watched. Who hummed my mother's song while scrubbing floors. Who risked everything to touch a dying king even though it meant revealing herself. Who saved me not because fate demanded it, but because her heart couldn't bear to watch me suffer. He reached for her hand, and she gave it willingly, her fingers trembling as they laced with his. You weren't meant to see me, she said softly, echoing words the goddess had spoken through her. You were meant to recognize me. And I do. Caius pressed her hand to his chest, where his heart beat steady and strong, where the 7 scars had been. Not because my wolf demands it, though he does. Not because the goddess ordained it, though she did. But because you are the bravest, strongest, most extraordinary person I've ever met. And I would rather spend one lifetime loving you than an eternity with anyone else. Fresh tears spilled down Ophelia's cheeks, not crystallizing now, just human emotion, pure and unfiltered. Even knowing what I am? What will cost you? Especially knowing. He rose slowly, pulling her with him until they stood face to face beneath the silver moon. The Luna Council will fight us. The nobles will whisper. The kingdom might fracture. But I don't care. Because you're worth it. This us is worth it. He cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs brushing away her tears. I choose you, Ophelia. Not the eclipse child. Not prophecy or destiny or divine will. Just you. The woman I love. The soul I recognize as my own. Today and every day after. Will you have me? For a moment, she just stared at him, her mismatched eyes shimmering with emotion. Then she smiled, radiant and real and so beautiful it made his chest ache. Yes, she whispered. 1,000 times yes. When their lips met, the world transformed. Light exploded from where they touched, not destructive this time, but creative. Beautiful. It spiraled up from their joined hands, their sealed bond, spreading across the courtyard like dawn breaking. And in that light, something magnificent happened. Their wolves emerged. Not physically, they remained human, standing in each other's arms. But spiritually, on the plane where souls met and bonds formed, their wolves finally merged. Caius's wolf of silver and strength intertwined with Ophelia's wolf of light and shadow, two separate beings becoming one unified whole. The bond sealed with an audible snap that resonated through the courtyard, through the palace, through the entire kingdom. Every shifter felt at the completion of their alpha's mate bond, the healing of a curse that had plagued the bloodline for generations. Around them, the destruction began to reverse. Cracks in the courtyard stones sealed themselves. Broken pillars were formed. Even the guards' wounds began to close, accelerated healing gifted by the goddess's approval. The silver moon pulsed once, twice, 3 times, a benediction from the divine. The curse was lifted. Not just from Caius, but from the entire kingdom. The shadow that had hung over them for 3 generations simply vanished. Gone like morning mist beneath the sun. Your Majesty. Caius turned to find the entire court, nobles, guards, priestesses, servants on their knees. Even High Priestess Moira knelt, though her face was pale and her eyes filled with something between awe and terror. Rise, Caius commanded, his voice carrying the authority of an alpha whose power was no longer being drained by curse. All of you, rise. They did, slowly, their gazes fixed on him and Ophelia. On the light that still connected them. On the obvious truth of what had just happened. The goddess has spoken, Caius said clearly. The curse is broken. The bond is sealed. Ophelia, the eclipse child, daughter of the lunar bloodline, is my mate. My equal. And, should she accept, my queen. Shocked whispers rippled through the crowd. Moira opened her mouth to protest, but Lord Soren surprisingly stepped forward first. The goddess's will is clear, Soren said, bowing deeply. We have witnessed divine intervention. To deny it would be to deny the goddess herself. She looked at Ophelia, and something like respect flickered in her expression. You saved our king. Broke a curse that condemned his bloodline. Whatever you are, you've proven yourself worthy. We acknowledge you. One by one, others followed. Not everyone. Moira and several council members remained stiff and resistant. But enough. Enough nobles kneeling, enough guards bowing, enough acceptance that the tide had turned. Caius felt Ophelia's hand tighten in his. I'm terrified, she whispered. So am I, he admitted. But we'll figure it out together. He turned to face his people, broken, bloodied, but still standing. His kingdom. His responsibility. His future. This woman, he said, pulling Ophelia forward gently, has been invisible to you. A servant you overlooked, a life you dismissed. But the goddess saw her. And now, finally, so do I. She is brave beyond measure, kind beyond deserving, powerful beyond understanding. And I am honored and humbled that she chose me. He released her hand and reached up to remove the thin silver circlet he wore, the Alpha King's crown, simple and ancient. Then, before the entire court, he placed it on Ophelia's head. I crown you as my queen, he said, his voice resonating with power and promise. Not because prophecy demands it. Not because the goddess ordained it. But because I choose you. Today and always. And I vow before the moon and stars and every witness here, never again will I reject what the goddess has chosen. Never again will I be too blind to see what matters. Never again will I choose pride over love. The crown settled on Ophelia's head like it had always belonged there, and her silver light pulsed brighter, as if responding to the declaration. She turned to him, tears streaming down her face, and spoke her own vow, I choose you too. Alpha King. Stubborn wolf. The man who learned to see with his heart. I will stand beside you through whatever comes. Your kingdom is mine. Your people are mine. Your future is mine. Never again will I hide what I am. Never again will I let fear silence my truth. Never again will I doubt that love is worth fighting for. Their marked palms pressed together, the 7 circles glowing bright enough to rival the moon itself. And in that moment, with the goddess's blessing still resonating through the air and their people watching in awe, they sealed their bond completely. Not with a formal ceremony or elaborate ritual. Just with truth. With choice. With love freely given and joyfully accepted. The moon blazed silver above them, no longer blood red, no longer judging. Just beautiful and eternal and approving. Caius pulled Ophelia into his arms and kissed her again, deeper this time, sealing everything they'd promised with the oldest language in existence, the joining of souls who'd finally found their way home. When they broke apart, he rested his forehead against hers, breathing her in. What happens now? She laughed, the sound bright with joy and relief and lingering disbelief. I have no idea. But we'll figure it out together. Together, he agreed. They turned to face the palace, hand in hand, crowned and bonded and ready to face whatever came next. The courtyard fountain destroyed in the fighting had somehow refilled during the blessing, its waters clear and still as glass. Caius looked down at their reflection, and his breath caught. In the water, he could see them not as separate beings, but as one unified whole. His dark strength merged with her silver light, their outlines blurring and intertwining until it was impossible to tell where one ended and the other began. 2 souls, finally one. Ophelia saw it too, and her hand tightened in his. Beautiful, she whispered. Yes, Caius agreed, but he was looking at her. Just her. The woman the goddess had hidden in plain sight. The woman who'd saved him in every way a person could be saved. The woman who was, impossibly and miraculously, his. The moon witnessed it all, the Alpha King and his Eclipse Queen, standing in the ruins they'd survived, ready to rebuild together. The curse was broken. The bond was sealed. The story, finally, was complete. And there you have it, the Alpha King who learned to see with his heart, and the maid who was never invisible at all. If this story gives you butterflies, smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you never miss another tale of hidden identities, forbidden bonds, and love that defies destiny itself. Tell me in the comments, what was your favorite moment? The fountain scene? The trial? The curse shattering? I want to hear from you. And if you're watching from somewhere in the world right now, drop your location below. I love knowing where my story family is. Until next time, keep believing in the power of recognition over sight, and love over everything else.